Can you all introduce yourselves, please? Give just to start off with, please. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I appreciate you guys letting us kind of talk about the work we've done this year. We are four students at different stages at GW. I know Zinyu and I are seniors in our undergraduate business analytics program. And Kason, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just graduated from your master's program, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So congratulations for that. So we're, three business analytics students at GW at different stages. And this was part of our senior capstone that we did with GW, working with both Richard and Justin this whole semester. So yeah, it's really great to get to know all of you. And yeah, let's start this presentation. Yeah, so yeah, as I said, good morning, everyone, and really thanks for being here. We love sharing our work whenever we can. And today we're going to analyze MLB's 2023 rule change, which increased base sizes and impact game dynamics. So obviously, as we mentioned, this study was commissioned by the SABR-Pelican chapter with Richard and Justin as our sponsors, and we've been working with all semester. And we're evaluating how this change has influenced base running strategies and offensive production. I'm Sachin, joined by my teammates Sinyu, Daniel, and Kason. And let's get started. So just looking into a little bit of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to cover an executive summary. We're going to go into a problem understanding, a methodology, some in-depth data analysis, and then some final recommendations. Yeah, so as I mentioned, for the 2023 season, the MLB increased base sizes from 15 to 18 inches to encourage more dynamic base running. Using metrics like weighted stolen base, speed score, and ultimate base running, we analyzed data from the 2019 season through the 2024 season, excluding the 2020 shortened COVID season, because it was only 60 games and we thought that wouldn't be very helpful. And some key findings here that are brief, but we'll go over more later, are that stolen base attempts and success rates increased significantly. Offensive metrics, including on-base plus slugging and weighted runs created, improved. And there's much more, but these basic results just highlight how the rule change influenced player strategies and overall offensive performance. Yeah, so looking kind of into the problem understanding here, working with Richard and Justin, we focused on key questions to
Barely hear 'em.
we worked on key questions to guide this analysis. Some of these being how have stolen base success rates changed since 2019? What trends emerged in 2023 compared to earlier seasons? Which players and teams specifically adapted best under the new rules? And then what refinements could make this rule even more effective? And yeah, and then again, working with Richard and Justin, we kind of came up with this methodology to work throughout this whole process of about a 4 or 5 month analysis. First was a trend analysis where we assessed stolen base and offensive trends over that 5 year period. Then we evaluated pre and post 2023 performance metrics. We made predictive models which highlighted players who thrived under the new rules. And then our last step here was recommendations, where we developed strategies for gameplay and performance improvement. Yeah, so I just want to introduce you guys briefly to the data that we analyzed. And our analysis drew from two data sets spanning 2019 to 2024. This first data set was a team data set that examined trends in stolen base attempts and success rates across MLB teams. And the second was a player data set, which had 1,500 records, including metrics like weighted stolen base speed, OPS, and WRC. And the data sets, even though they were different, they were really helpful because they provided a strong foundation for uncovering trends and formulating recommendations.
So, Sasha, he alluded to this a little earlier, but these are analytical techniques. First one being comparative analysis, where we compared the stolen base attempts and success rates across the 19 and 24 seasons. And then the trend analysis to evaluate stolen base metrics, offensive output, offensive production over the 5 year period as well, to assess how the increased base sizes influence stolen base attempts and success rates. along with along with overall offensive output. Then we did a predictive model to we built it to profile players to based on their base running metrics to identify which players are most likely to benefit from the rule change. Okay. And then in this first graphic here, are we able to scroll down a bit or no? Oh, you can go back. Well, looking at this first graphic, we're looking at the percent change from the 2022 season to the 2023 season in stolen base success rates. So this is right at the rule change. In green, you see the top 5 teams, and in red, you see the bottom 5. In the green, you see Cincinnati Reds as #1, followed by the New York Mets, Minnesota Twins, San Diego Padres, and Detroit Tigers. And then in red, you see St. Louis Cardinals, San Francisco Giants, and to a much huge surprise, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Los Angeles Angels, and Chicago White Sox. Surprising to see Dodgers up there because they're consistently been a playoff team for the last few years. Reason being probably because their offense is not based on base running. It's more focused on power and hitting. Now looking at the stolen base attempts for 2022 to 2023, these are the top 5 teams. So still looking at the rule change. In green, you see the 2023 data, and in blue, you see the 2022 data. Now, go back, please. Across all 5 teams, you see increases across all 5 teams, from the Reds all the way down to the Guardians. Next, please. Now, looking at the bottom 5 teams, same graphic, but just the bottom 5 teams, different colors. 2022 data is still blue, and the 2023 data is red. And you see increases across 3 of these teams, the Rockies, Twins, and White Sox. If you look closely at the Angels and Marlins, you see no change at all or a decrease from 22 to 23. Reason being for several variables. It could be several variables included in that, based on retirements or rookies or coaching strategies, trades, several factors, injuries, as well as I believe this year the Miami Marlins were one of the worst teams in the MLB. Now, looking at the average stolen base attempts per team per season in this 5-year window, we exclude the 2020 data. Considering it was a COVID year and shortened games. From 19 to 21, you see a slight dip. And then in 22, we see a slight bump. And then right at the rule change in 2023, there was a surge, a huge increase, and then another bump in 2024. Now, looking at the stolen base success rates across this 5-year period, again, no 2020 data. We see a slight bump in percentage change from 19 to 21, slight decrease at 2022, and then a 5-year jump, a 5% jump, right at the rule change in 2023, and then another slight dip in 2024, possibly due to coaching changes and trying to supplement for this new found rule change and base size increases.
And then we start to analyze the data from players' perspective. We took the average for their stolen base and the weighted stolen base data. And then we can see it here, right after the base size change, the speed increase largely from 2022 to 2023. On the right graph here for the weighted stolen base, the blue line here represent the 95% confidence intervals, which reflects the reliability and precision of the estimate. On this graph, we can see that for different years confidence interval, they do not overlap, which suggests a significant increase in average weighted stolen base starting from 2023. This indicates that larger base size likely had a positive impact on stolen base performance, and this change is not due to the chance. And also on this graph, we took the average for the base stolen rate here. Even though we can see there is a lot of overlap for the 95% interval on the left graph, but after we zoom in here, we can still see there's an increase impact after the base size change, and it is all negative from 2020, 2019, 2021, and 2022. And after the the base size change, it became positive after 2023. And also we took the average speed data for all the players. The data reveals a consistent decline in average speed from 2019 to 2022. But after the size change, there's a upward change from 2023 to 2024. And after that, we start to build few models. And before the building the model, we trying to see which variables that has the impact for the base running. And the graph here highlights the significant for the 4 main variables, including speed, weighted stolen base, base running, and stolen base. Yeah, each factor contribute to a player's likelihood of successful base advancement. And also, this visualization underscore how this element collectively shape base running strategy in the game. The first model we built is the linear regression model here. The R square for the whole model is the 0.749, which means that the model runs pretty good on here. And also for the p-value for each variables, it's pretty small, which means that all these 4 variables has statistically significant, which means that we can use these 4 models to build up our formulation, which based on their R square value here, and the formulation is at the bottom of this table 1. And we use this formula to calculate players' performance. This is the top 10 result of the players we have here. The highest score represents better base stealing. And this table also match up with the following model we built, which is the hierarchical clustering plot here. It provides the insight into player base running performance in 2024. And these 2 metrics are vital for understanding players' tendencies in stolen bases, as they capture both the effectiveness of the stolen base attempts and the player's raw speed. And the red plot are the players from cluster 1, and the blue plot are the player from cluster 0. And we can see here, the cluster 1 players are the most aggressive and successful base stealers in the league. Their high speed and weighted stolen base make them critical assets for teams aiming to capitalize on the stolen base rule changes introduced in 2023, which is the base size, larger base size. And the cluster 0 players might attempt fewer steals due to their lower likelihood of success, focusing instead on other offensive contributions. And the team should focus on leverage cluster 1 players in a situation that maximize the impact of their speed and base stealing skills. Conversely, cluster 0 players might require additional training or specific game strategies to improve their base running contribution. And also we can see from the figure 12.1 here, most of the player match up with the table, which is the top 10 players we have in the previous table. After that, we build a decision tree model using the team's data. All teams are categorized into different clusters based on their performance metrics. Also are the stolen base, base running speed, and weighted stolen base. Teams with higher speed scores and better base running metrics tend to perform better in the stealing bases, which means that the cluster at the right side, this one, the branching path, perform better, and the branching path of the decision tree highlights which conditions are most likely to lead to a success. And this is the table that we have for decision trees. We group the teams based on their base stealing performance, and each box here represent a team, and the size and the colors of the box represent the cluster that they belongs to. The top performing teams like Cincinnati Reds are at the forefront of the base stealing. They consistently combine high speed and base running efficiency to outpace their competitors. For the top performance team here, they can focus on maintaining their strategy and scouting players who can sustain this level of performance. On the other hand, teams like Chicago White Sox is at the bottom of the ranking, likely due to slower players or less aggressive base running strategies. And for the low performing teams here, they could focus on improving player speed or training base running strategies. Overall, this cluster analysis shows which team are excelling and highlights actionable areas for improvement for the rest.
Yeah, so after all the analysis, potential next steps. So we see the increases in the stolen base attempts, success rates, and offensive metrics. This validates the continued use of larger bases. MLB should explore or create more complementary rule changes, like refining pickoff attempt limits to boost base stealing and offense. Teams could also prioritize scouting players and developing players with high speed scores and good play discipline. MLB should monitor these changes over multiple seasons to track sustainability and to refine strategies. And experimenting on incremental base size changes in minor leagues could help optimize gameplay. And the 30 teams in the MLB and the MLB itself could use advanced metrics to identify base stealing talent and improve strategies for efficient base running.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the last things I wanted to do here is just kind of go over some risks, because as every analysis has, there are going to be some risks involved. First, just kind of talking about data limitations a little bit. To be honest, the two data sets we used, one of them was was supplied to us, but it was one where we kind of just had to look up different stats surrounding success rates, attempts, team attempts, player attempts. So because of this, the data set definitely lacked comprehensiveness. We didn't have as many variables as we needed at times, just because we weren't able to pull them or efficiently bring them into our data sets. So that was definitely one thing. A more robust data set with more variables and more data points would have definitely helped us a little more. And kind of related to that is there was a short time frame. We did a 5-season analysis, 2019 to 2024, excluding the 2020 season. But we do, and this was because the rule change happened in 2023. We didn't really have much of a choice. We had to take this basically the same amount of time before and after the rule change, and that's what 2019 to 2024 gave us. But we do recognize how this could not totally capture long-term trends. So continued monitoring is definitely necessary for validation and refinement here. Like, for example, in 2028 or something, when we have 5-6 years of data on both sides, we may have a little bit of a better understanding of this rule change, but I think this is a really good framework to start that. Yeah, and that's all we have for now. Again, wanted to thank you guys for listening to us. We're all young analysts really interested in sports, so it's really cool to be able to share our work with like-minded individuals with a lot of experience in this industry, or just within this. And here's our appendices. And what we will do is I can forward this PowerPoint and the code, if you guys want or whatever, to Justin and Richard, and they can pass it on to you guys if you want to take a deeper look. But yeah, thank you guys.
Questions? What you got?
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, ask questions.
Okay.
Questions?
I had a question for Miss Lee. In the it was in the slide before graph number 4. It was like the last picture before graph number 4. It was maybe it's this one. Wait.
All right, so, yeah, so speed is a metric. Speed is its own statistic, from like Bill James stuff, and it's on Fangraphs.
So when it says speed, it's not saying like the mile per hour went up. It's like
No,
the speed score went up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speed
The
is,
speed score went up.
Uh,
Let's see.
okay.
yeah, speed score kind of, it's a comprehensive stat that measures a player's speed and base running skills combined. So it gives like incorporates stolen base success rates, like attempt frequency, advancement on hits, triple rates. So many different aspects of base running is in this speed score.
Can you guys help me recall the rule change effect on the distance between the two edges of the bases? Was it 6 inches on each base?
It was the base size changed from 15 to 18 inches.
3 inches on each side, so 6 inches out of 90 feet. I've
Yes.
always wondered about this. Thank you very much for
Of
doing
course.
this, because for years, as long as I've been following baseball, that goes back to 1959.
Mhm.
I have been reading that 90 feet between the bases is the perfect distance because the skill sets and the players have evolved over time to where the success rate hadn't changed all that much in 100 and something years, that the distance remained unchanged. So
Mhm.
I wondered about this immediately when I read about the rule change. So thank you for doing the work, because my intuitive reaction to it was there's going to be a higher success rate in stealing bases.
Yeah. No, and there definitely was a higher success rate. Obviously I'm only 21, but I've been a baseball fan my whole life too. And it's interesting because I don't know exactly how I feel about the rule still, because you're right. Base running has kind of been very constant for the history of baseball. But this rule change is really promoting more viewership, because more runs, more offensive production is really what I feel like the sport thought they needed, because baseball viewership was on the decline for the past few years. And that's one thing I wish, if we had more time, we could have added in, kind of just looking at those. But baseball has been doing better as offensive production has been increasing again, which is a really interesting way to look at the game. Are there any other questions?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we're having some issues.
we-
Had a
we
big
lost.
storm this week, so.
It's
Yeah,
messed up
can
on
you
the
explain
boards.
the speed score? Yeah, see, it's a base running skill. Can you show the formula? Paragraph?
Oh, I see, okay, I didn't get to read that.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
How much effect did the pick off the 2 throw-overs limit? How much effect did that have on attempts?
Did you hear that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I think your audio is going in and out.
Can y'all speak to how much the rule for only 2 pickoffs had an effect on the base stealing?
Yeah, we didn't actually analyze that too much. That's again something we kind of maybe could have added in if we had a little more time. We were kind of on a time crunch here. But it would be really interesting to see how the 2 pickoff rate would affect this.
Get used to the time crunch and the data limitations as you enter the
For
room.
sure.
Do you have any idea based on this, what teams who want to reduce defensively, want to reduce the amount of stolen bases, what they could do? Based on the data you have of what's successful?
Right. Yeah, and you can speculate a little bit here, but what do you think defenses can do to help limit the stolen bases now that we've seen that increase?
Yeah, I mean, I think it opens up a bunch of new possibilities. Just coming from like a baseball fan point of view, I think it means that you really can't have catchers out there that can't throw a ball, getting stolen bases. Like I know Jose Trevino, I'm a big Yankees fan, but Jose Trevino of the Yankees couldn't play a lot of games with teams that were very susceptible to stealing bases because he just couldn't throw players out in time. Either his pop speed or his actual arm speed just wasn't fast enough. So I think one way you can do this is by tailoring catchers to be able to prevent this. Like I know Austin Wells was very much able to catch stolen bases that Trevino wasn't. So one way is to kind of tailor the catchers in this. I think the pitchers, we didn't do an analysis on pitchers, but pitch speed is, increasing rapidly. Every team now has like 8 pitchers that can pitch a ball of like 100 miles an hour. It's like unheard of. So I think kind of the idea of what a pitcher is in the MLB is changing. They all have to be really fast throwing pitchers. Those are two I can think about now, kind of just having to alter your roster in certain ways, because with the shift being banned and with this new rule to attempt pickoffs, the league is really rooting for more offense. So what you have to do is just refine defensive strategy.
Do you think catchers will start to get away from framing with the stance that they're doing the Tony Pena split, and they'll go back to being on their haunches the way it used to be so they can get rid of the ball quicker?
I think so. Yeah, I don't totally know, but yeah, I think it's going to be the pitchers and catchers are just going to have to really approach the game differently now. I mean, yeah.
I think the
I don't
automated
know.
balls and strikes is gonna get rid of framing. Right?
Should.
Yeah,
Should,
that's
yeah.
true.
They're only gonna use the little challenge system.
Yeah.
To get started,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I mean, it is.
But yeah, that'll definitely, once the robotic umps are in, it's definitely going to be much easier because catchers can literally just focus on their pop time and getting ready to throw the ball. Then they don't have to really focus too much on framing, how they catch the ball, kind of looking better when they catch it. They can really just kind of be herky jerky and get up and throw the ball right away because the sensors are just calling it a strike if it crosses at a certain point.
Anything else on this topic?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And again, sorry for the technical difficulties, but
Appreciate Yeah,
Thank you so much.
They
Yeah.
did their final.
Each team.
Everybody, my name is Javik Blake. I'm the Media Relations Manager and Broadcaster with the Biloxi Shuckers, AA affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers. Unfortunately, not able to make the
Maybe it was on their end that didn't come through, man.
meeting today, but certainly hope everyone safe, is warm, and everything's all good. Excited to talk some baseball. Really big thank you to the chapter for still letting me present, even though I'm out of town at the moment. But really excited to be back and talking with everybody after last year. So much fun and really exciting just to get to talk some baseball and talk a bit about the Shuckers. If you remember last year when I was at the meeting, we talked a lot about the history of baseball in Biloxi. Now that was a lot of early 1900s, of course, before the Shuckers. The last minor league team to play there was in the 1920s, before the Shuckers came back in 2015. So we focused a lot on the old school history of baseball in Biloxi. With us coming up on our 10th anniversary this upcoming season, we're going to kind of switch it around a bit for this year in this off-season presentation and talk a bit about the modern history of baseball in Biloxi with the Shuckers as we again enter our 10th season in 2025. So we're going to go through this slideshow, hit on a couple different things where the Shuckers trace their roots back to. As many of you know, in the convoluted world of minor league baseball, a lot of these teams trace their roots back quite a ways. I mean, just think of the Zephyrs, for example, tracing their roots back to Denver and the old American Association. And that's why the Zephyrs obviously became the New Orleans Zephyrs. They just kind of switched the city name around, from Denver to New Orleans. The Shuckers kind of have that same kind of winding, wacky history. And we'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to some of the big time moments, some of the big time teams throughout the years with the success the Shuckers have had. And then finally, we'll finish off highlighting some of the best in franchise history as categorized by win spot replacement for players who have made their debut after playing the Shuckers. And for any of you that have been to a Shuckers game or kind of followed along, who has played for the Shuckers over the past 10 years, or 9 seasons going into our 10th year. It's a lot. There's a lot of talented ball players. For those who know the Brewers pitching staff, a lot of those are pitchers. So we'll hit on that as well. So we'll start off here with kind of tracing the roots of the Shuckers. Now, currently, we play in the Southern League, a league that has 8 different teams. Used to be 10 prior to COVID, but with the reorganization of minor league baseball for the 2021 season and onward following the COVID cancellation, the Southern League was contracted to 10 teams with 3 different teams were in new places or non-existent for the 2021 season. After 2019, there's been a 4th change as well. The Jacksonville Suns became the Jumbo Shrimp. They moved up to the AAA International League. The Mobile Bay Bears moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and became the Rocket City Trash Pandas. The Jackson Generals were no longer in existence, and those were the Jumbo Shrimp and the Generals were the 2 teams that were technically kind of not contracted per se, but departed the Southern League, with 2 teams being added to the Texas League, one of them being the Wichita Wind Surge, the former New Orleans Zephyr / Baby Cakes, and then the San Antonio Missions were dropped down. They went from AA to AAA, they went back down to AA in the Texas League to make that a 10-team circuit. So the Southern League, 8 teams, the most recent move that makes us the most Western team in the Southern League is the Mississippi Braves up in Pearl. They moved to Columbus, Georgia, and they'll play as the Columbus Clingstones starting this year. And it's actually who we open up with at home for our home opener. We start Pensacola, but we'll play the Clingstones, which are named after a type of peach. We'll play them in early April. So we're the only minor league team in the state of Mississippi. Obviously, there's been a lot of history of minor league baseball in the state of Mississippi. The old Jackson Generals, not the one in Tennessee, the one in Mississippi that used to play in the Texas League back in the later stages of the 20th century. So we're the only team left in the state of Mississippi on the minor league side, with the Braves moving to Columbus, and we're the westernmost team in the league. We're also the southernmost team in the league by about 0.2 degrees of latitude over Pensacola. But we moved to Biloxi in 2015 after being the Huntsville Stars from 1985 to 2014. And there were a lot of really talented players who played for the Stars. At one point, there were a couple of different affiliates. Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco both played in Huntsville, and they made their way through the minor leagues. But the Stars / the Shuckers have been affiliated with the Brewers since 1999. So the Brewers have had their AA affiliate in the Southern League for the entirety of the 21st century. They were previously affiliated with AA El Paso Diablos from 1981 to 1988, which, if anyone knows anything about the Texas League offense, every single Brewers AA minor league record comes in El Paso, especially with that ballpark. And you read stories about how tiny it was back in the day. So previously affiliated with El Paso, the Brewers moved their operations to Huntsville and then obviously to Biloxi for 2015. But the way Huntsville worked was really fascinating. The Stars technically, and you put technically in quotation marks because the way things were recognized were different. So the Stars technically originated in Nashville, Tennessee as the AA Nashville Sounds back in the day in the Southern League. Now, when the Sounds moved up to AAA in 1985, they carried on the legacy of the Sounds, but the franchise was taken from Nashville and transferred to Huntsville in the Southern League. So the Huntsville Stars were the new Southern League franchise for 1985 as the Sounds went up to AAA. But you wonder how in the world will the Sounds become a AAA team? You obviously didn't add a new team to Major League Baseball in 1985. And the reason for that is the Evansville Triplets of the American Association moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and the Sounds became a AAA ball club this Nashville Sounds double A franchise moved to Huntsville, and the Sounds carry on the old Sounds franchise, the original one, at the AA level to the AAA level. So in a weird roundabout way, the team, the Shuckers, who have their AAA affiliate in Nashville as the Nashville Sounds, were at one point in time the Nashville Sounds, which is really, really fascinating. But of course, it gives us a great opportunity to take a look at that fantastic Nashville Sounds logo. The stars, obviously, really paying tribute to all the aerospace and the space industry in the Huntsville area, and obviously the Shuckers, with the cute little oyster, paying homage to the fishing industry in coastal Mississippi. So the road to Biloxi, you go back to here, to 2014, moved to Biloxi in 2015 now. Anybody from around the coast remembers the 2015 Shuckers, or whoever read ESPN the magazine in 2015, there was a really, really, really long road to get to Biloxi. So here's the road to Biloxi. We played 54 consecutive games on the road, and somehow that team won a first half title. So the 2015 season began, obviously, in Huntsville, moved to Biloxi. 2015 season began, and the ballpark was ready. So, opening day rolls around, can't play in Biloxi. What are you going to do? Well, you play 54 games in 58 days entirely on the road. You get a great map down there from ESPN on where the Shuckers played. They went everywhere around the Southern League. They would play as the home team in visiting ballparks. We even went back to Huntsville and Joe Davis Stadium to play a couple of games as well. They earned a win in their inaugural game on April 9th at Pensacola. They won 4-0 in the first game in franchise history, and the first game for a team in Biloxi again since the mid-1920s. They spanned over 2,800 miles, and one of the cool things early on in franchise history is the media publicity from ESPN actually embedded a reporter with the Shuckers throughout the 2015 season when they were going on this wild road trip throughout the Southern League. It was a bit like in a roundabout way when the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Yankees became the Empire State Yankees when we were redoing PNC Field in Moosic, Pennsylvania, when they played an entire season on the road. And that's what the same thing was with the Shuckers for the first half until the ballpark was ready in mid-June. But the fascinating thing is you play so many games on the road. The question goes, well, how are guys going to react? How are things going to go? And the answer was quite simply that it went pretty well. They went 33-21 during the road trip. They won the first half title in the Southern League. So in their first ever season as a franchise, they're going to the playoffs. They opened Keystone Federal Park at the time. It was MGM Park on June 6, 2015. And the story goes, and it's a wild story. So you look at the map, they were in Birmingham, but they came back to Biloxi. And the night before, they had played a wild game. It went late into the night, obviously before the pitch clock, an over 4-hour game, and they got the win. They get on the bus and they drive back home. Now, it wasn't an afternoon game, it was a night game. So back in those days, obviously, you did not have off days after every series like we do now. So they get on the bus. It's about a 5-ish hour bus ride back from Birmingham. So they get home at about 2-3 a.m. They get off the bus and they got to wake up the next morning and do a ticker tape parade in downtown Biloxi to open up the ballpark. So they get back. They're on about 2 hours sleep, 3 hours sleep. They go do this parade. They open the ballpark. Guys go back to sleep. They get to the ballpark. They take on the Mobile Bay Bears, which at the time were the closest Southern League team to the Shuckers, about an hour drive away. They played 14 innings in a game that went deep into the night. And back in those days, obviously, two National League affiliates, the pitchers were hitting, and they ran out of people to have as pinch runners. So one of them became Brett Suter, the now longtime big leaguer. At the time, he was a Brewers minor leaguer. He scored the game-winning run. It was a walk-off win against the Mobile Bay Bears. And look at the picture right there. That was the celebration. That's Suter rounding third and coming home. And if anyone here is a fan of West Virginia football, the green jersey is Garrett Green, the current starting quarterback for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Charlie Green. His father is a longtime member of the Brewers organization, currently serves as their bullpen coach. And his kiddo was there when his dad was roving around. So if yeah, any West Virginia football fans, that's your fun fact of the day. Garrett Green, starting quarterback, was right there when the Shuckers walked it off against the Mobile Bay Bears to finish up that first game in Biloxi. And now that 2015 season really started a lot of consistent success for the Shuckers. The Brewers as a whole have not won at any minor league level a league title since 2012 when the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers did it in the Double-A level. They haven't even won a title since 1994, but the Shuckers have gotten awfully close more than a couple of times. So we'll start with the 2015 season. And you look at those first half standings, 43-25 for a team that played, again, we'll go back, 54 consecutive games. Look at this map, ridiculous, a lot of time on the bus. And they went 43-25. They were the only South Division team to finish over 500, 9.5 games clear of second place Mobile. They ran away with that first half title. Guys like Brent Suter, Orlando Arcia, Jorge Lopez, Tyler Wagner were the guys that really led this team. Obviously, Orlando Arcia, really the first Shuckers superstar in the prospect world. Arcia and Lopez both ended up becoming all-stars, and Brent Suter, obviously, a really long big league career. Now, this team was loaded, and also the fact that back when they used to have this Southern League All-Star game, inaugural season, they had 10 different All-Star selections, and there is the entire cast of characters who participated in the All-Star game in Montgomery, and then they made the playoffs. Now, there's one consistent thing in Shuckers franchise history: anytime they face Pensacola in the playoffs, they're going to win the series. They swept him 3-0 in the Southern League Division Series, and they got to Game 5 against the Chattanooga Lookouts in the 2015 Southern League Championship Series. And what is unfortunately a common theme throughout this presentation, Shuckers came up short. They lost 4-0 in Game 5, but a miraculous season that started out with 54 consecutive games, road 10 All-Star selections, opening the ballpark, baseball back in Biloxi for the first time since the 1920s, get to Game 5 and come up just short. So now 2018, you look down at that fourth bullet point, well, they defeated Pensacola again. This is the first 2 of 4 consecutive South Division half titles. The Shuckers between 2018 and 2019 were ridiculous. They missed out on the playoffs in 16, just missed in 2017. Back in it in 2018 with 81 wins, a Southern League best, and at the time it was the franchise record until the next season came around. But they won the first half title. They won the second half title. Corey Ray was the guy. Now, back in 2018, Corey Ray was a really hot shot prospect. Won the Southern League MVP award. Set the franchise record with 27 homers, a mark that still stands. Westport came awfully close a couple of years ago, but Corey Ray's 27 homers, the franchise record. And this was before we were using the big league balls, which we used in 2021, 2022, and 2023. 2024, we went back to the minor league baseball, just have a little less fury to them than there were the last couple of years. So 27 homers is a lot. The fact that it still stands is really impressive. Troy Stokes Jr., Jake Gatewood were 2 guys on that team as well. Now, just like 2015, swept Pensacola in the Southern League Division Series, the Shuckers defeated Pensacola 3-1 in the SLDS for their second South Division title in 4 years. And then they got to the championship series and they fell 3-1 against the Jackson Generals, who at the time were the Diamondbacks of Philly. Jackson Generals, one consistent throughout Shuckers history is they have played spoiler to every single title appearance the Shuckers have made outside of that first season. Because you hit 2019, look at those numbers: 82 wins, 19 shutouts. Opponents did just 219 off the Shuckers. They won the first half title and the second half title. That means between 2018 and 2019, with the half system, which usually ends up with 2 different teams winning a first half title and a second half title, the Biloxi Shuckers finished in first place for 4 consecutive halves. There was nobody better than the Shuckers. First half, second half, overall, in either 2018 or 2019. They won 82 games in 2019. That was tied for the 8th most in minor league baseball and the 2nd most at the Double-A level. The 82 wins were also a franchise record. Now, there were a lot of different guys in this team. Pitching was obviously big. Devin Williams, who was a superstar, and is still a superstar, was the guy out of the bullpen for that team. Cooper Hummel, Trey Shupak, were those guys as well. The Shuckers also hosted the 2019 Southern League All-Star Game, which was the first time an All-Star Game had ever been held on the coast in Biloxi. So it was really, really exciting times. The team was incredibly good, led by a couple of great players. And then they got to the playoffs, faced Pensacola, and as has happened every single time in franchise history, they defeated Pensacola 3-2 in the Southern League Division Series to go to the Southern League Championship Series that faced the Jackson Generals for the second consecutive year. And they lost for the second consecutive year, this time in 5 games. To the Jackson Generals by a 6-2 final. So 3 championship appearances in franchise history. 2 heartbreaking losses in a do-or-die Game 5 and 1 Game 4 loss to the Generals in 2018. So the big joke this year was when we came up too short against the Montgomery Biscuits in Game 3. Now it's a best-of-3 series as opposed to a best-of-5 series. Is that, well, if only the Shuckers had played Pensacola in the division series, they probably would. But as has been the case every time they played them in franchise history. So now we're going to talk a bit about from Biloxi to the big leagues. And this has been a really, really big point throughout our team's history. It has been a lot of success, a lot of talent at the big league level has come through Biloxi. One of those guys is right there in Jackson Churio. Since 2015, 77 former Shuckers have gone on with their big league debut.
Oh, really?
51 of them with the Milwaukee, including Jackson Churio, who is a superstar, had that terrific game in Game 2 of the wild card series this year with the Brewers. But it's a guy that is uber talented and one of many really, really talented guys throughout franchise history. You know, you kind of look at the big 4: Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Welp, and Josh Hader, and then Devin Williams can be added on to that, as well as sort of the big 5 who have come through the Shuckers ranks. And you notice that all of them are pitchers. Trent Grisham, Orlando Arcia, obviously 2 of the big time guys on the hitting side. Dylan Morris had a great career with the Seattle Mariners, which is a former Shucker as well. But Jackson Churio, if all goes well, it's looking to be up those ranks pretty well. You look at by wins above replacement. I mean, one of the best rookie seasons by a former Shucker ever. He's already tied for the 7th highest WAR by a position player in franchise history. That has gone on to make their big league debut. He's played exactly 1 season in the big leagues. The numbers here: 77 former Shuckers have made their MLB debut. 9 former Shuckers have made an MLB All-Star team. And up in the press box, we have all the posters of them making the All-Star game. The big league level, you know, it's been pretty cool having to add new ones every single year. And 4 former Shuckers have won a Gold Glove award, including Bryce Strang this year, who won the Platinum Glove for the National League. So there's been a lot of big guys throughout history, and a lot of recent guys as well. You look at Lucas Ursig, who was a star with the Kansas City Royals in the postseason this year as a closer with the Shuckers. He actually spent a year as a hitter and a year as a pitcher. A year as a hitter was okay. Obviously, as a pitcher, he's been really darn good on the pitching side as a closer now for the Royals, formerly with the Oakland Athletics. But there's been a lot of guys throughout our franchise's history that have had a lot of success at the big league level. Obviously, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, Josh Hader, Devin Williams are the big time ones. You know, we'll see if a guy like Jacob Zarowski or even a Craig Yoho can you know, be kind of that next wave of guys up to the big leagues. Tobias Myers as well, who's with us back in 2023, coming off a 1-15 campaign with an ERA over 6 in AAA. In 22, came to us in 23, set the franchise single season strikeout record from Drew Rasmussen, and has gone on to a terrific rookie season in the big league. So we're really excited to see kind of who the next wave of stars will be. Obviously, the Brewers farm system has been really good in recent memory, especially the last couple of years. So we're excited to see what's coming through the system and what's coming through our doors with our 10th anniversary season. And, you know, taking a look at who, you know, shoot up those leaderboards and become, you know, 78, 79, and 80, you know, entering this year of former Shuckers to have made their MLB debut. So that is the presentation on this end with everything. But on obviously, if you have any questions or anything, I'll make sure to provide my email. I'm actually just make a new slide right here, and we'll just put that right in. But let's do a slide just like this. So for anyone that would like to reach me, my email is jblake@BiloxiShuckers.com. Right there, we'll zoom in a line. But if you have any questions about the presentation, have any thoughts, want to just talk some baseball or stuff like that, feel free to send me an email right there. More than happy to talk baseball and talk Shuckers. Always fun to do throughout the off season and always exciting as well. But I just wanted to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Really love getting to talk some baseball, especially with as cold as it's been. I know by Saturday, I'm recording this on Thursday, so by Saturday, I'm hoping it warms up a good bit. But always fun to talk baseball. I'm really excited for baseball season to start. I know y'all are as well. And always appreciative to come out as well. So thanks so much again. Stay warm, and before we know it, baseball season will most definitely be here. Take care, guys.